Yeah.
passionate. Like it might be a Q&A session that you want to have you database.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing that everybody identified but didn't really talk about is, at the end of the day, a lot of this is skill gap issues, right? A lot of engineers are not great public speakers, right? So they're not as practiced. So if you're not a public speaker and you're not used to speaking in a certain way and teaching, then you're not going to be as great talking to the app as you are at writing, right?
Yeah.
If you are a great writer, you are better at writing, and you're going to be much more preferential to that experience, right? And you only get skills through practice. And so, I think that's a differentiator, and that's why they try to serve different audiences. And at the end of the day, this is closing the skill gap for many people, right? You have the experience, so you can convey it, but also some people that don't have the experience and they're using the voice mode, the instant's going to improve their prompt, like a meta prompter. And so the average person is going to say, build me a site. The instant's going to say, okay, this, and then 5.6, and just send back questions, right? And you're getting the model to infer things, but also ask you questions. And then what happens then long term when people no longer are developing these skills, right? Like you're no longer thinking about this, right? Like, and how you have to write things down,
Sure.
right? 2 or 3 years from now, the AI is pretty much compensated for many of our skills and having to actually learn.
Yeah, the dumbing effect, so to speak, of humans.
Two things. One, I pronounce myself much better in Hebrew, so I would like to talk to my club in Hebrew, but Fable don't like it at all. So it's only, I think it's not, because at the same computer, ChatGPT can really understand my Hebrew when I use the microphone. Fable will do that. So this is one thing. I think I'm much more efficient with Hebrew than English. And the other thing is what you said, Stefan. I had the same problem, but I think when I write this copy, I open a new window with ChatGPT and ask him, look for this line, just give me 10 other options. They're gonna sell it much better or whatever. And then it's just run 10 other options, and I come back and ask the ChatGPT that I'm on, which one you prefer? Why? Don't need to use my brain.
Yeah, I agree. Like for the specific skill of copywriting, like people are obsolete now. Like that's over, almost for sure. I was really thinking about how to communicate with the computer most efficiently, right? And I think your point is really correct that it really depends on how do you express yourself the most skillfully, right? But yeah, if you want to produce content, you don't do that yourself anymore.
It also like ties into the levels of AI adoption we talked about yesterday. Those things like when you're working one-on-one with one agent, then you need more like you were talking about, like really think about. So you write because you have to think about how to express a bigger thing in more details. That's easier almost to write because you have to think about it. But when you move up that ladder, like levels 2 and 3, when you're working with dozens and hundreds of agents, then the sub-agents below the system are like taking care of the low-level details. So you're more like just talking to the top tier, and I wanted this app done and make it nice looking, something like that. Those you don't have to type all the
I
details.
need to decide what I want. I mean, part of deciding what I want is, if I talk, I would need to take a pause for maybe 20 or 30 seconds just to decide what I want. And talking would not allow me to do that. I mean, this is not about super detailed technical specs. It's just, even if I'm on Boris' journey level of running 1,000 agents and just being a VP and steering by intent, I would still need to spec out something and phrase what I want. And that's for me writing. And if I try to do it by voice, if I had something like whatever you said, like something in the middle, a mid layer that takes my talking and composes prompts and kind of grills me and lets me talk and talk and talk, and then makes out the whole spec, then lets me review the spec and then send it. That would work.
That's what GPT Live can do.
Yeah, so that's kind of a nice compromise to to grill my talking and organize it, and then launch
Yeah,
some kind
yeah.
of work, that's one way to do it.
I think
Alright.
that, like, if your talking isn't already telling the AI what to do, then you probably just need the AI to ask you the right questions to get the thing that you like, okay, I want to make a spec.
Good point,
Ask me
yeah.
everything.
But that's the
And
one
then
thing that
just answer.
Pocock has done that I'm surprised nobody has really honed in on Claude or Codex, getting the models to instinctively ask more questions. The features are there. They can ask
This
questions,
has
and in
been
plan mode they can.
an attempt since years ago. I think this is one of the things they tried to get to instill in the model, and it was a huge complaining point many years ago. And I think it's just like a hard problem. I think it's actually literally not easy.
But it's very hard to tell something you need to end your turn when it's designed to want to continue going, right? So
Yes,
you need to
yes.
ask questions when it's like we've instinctively trained them to want to continue the conversation. Like ChatGPT wants you to use credits, they want you to use tokens, so they don't want the model to hand it back to you.
I think people also don't want to think, right? That's the
People also
problem.
don't want to think. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes back asking you questions, like, I don't know, what am I paying you to do? You know?
I feel like it comes back and asks questions too often already. I feel like it's constantly asking questions, like.
I mean, that could be just something you work, you use Codex or Claude?
No, both. They come back with that like stupid multiple choice thing, and I'm like, okay, you know.
Are you using plan mode, or is it instinctively
I'm
calling?
not using plan mode.
It's interesting, it usually, because it has to ask questions, it has to call one of the tools to ask questions.
Oh.
And so it's usually only designed to ask questions when in plan mode. So on your end,
I resent that it's even asking me. I'm like, you should know. Like, I don't ever, like, my
I
full
think this
answer
is
is
why it was
always
asked
like, did
questions
you
to
think
people.
that?
but is that from like the lack of conversation or and reading too many walls of text? Because I think when we read too many too many walls of text, we get kind of like fatigued. We don't want to write out a response. Like I'm always happy to talk, right? I think to someone else's point earlier, like I can talk to the model fine, but I don't want to write a massive response out when it asks me like 6 questions, right?
All right, for the sake of time, I'm gonna move from the voice chat to, because there's still so many other things I wanna share the updates from the other platforms. I'll probably just rapid fire this. So on the Anthropic side, yeah, let's rapid fire it. On the Anthropic side, Claude Security plugin is now available in beta. They actually released this security plugin a while ago. It went under the radar. Now there's this new form of it that's come back. If I'm correct, part of the whole Boris Cherny thing about up-leveling yourself is actually having this thing always on. So there's a link to get it. There's a whole page dedicated to it from Anthropic. Definitely recommend to just like go grab that plugin and put it as part of your SDLC if you have nothing. If you have nothing, then this is better than nothing.
Doesn't it trigger their own guardrails about cyber? Like if you're
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
this is an interesting-
like audit your own code for security
Yeah.
flaws, I mean, does it even work?
There's
Inside
a lot
your
of
own
jokes
ecosystem?
about if you have Fable run that security plugin, it's just gonna
Yeah.
be useless. But so maybe Opus 5 only would be the way to do it.
They said it also has some security guardrails in Opus 5 that downgraded to Opus 4.8.
Really?
As far as concerned
Oh,
stuff.
that's
That's what they
interesting.
said in the introduction blog.
Yeah, it has the same guardrails as Fable, but they've improved them. That's one of the complaints people were having last night, or I guess
Mhm.
this morning, was that like it can downgrade.
Those annoying
to 4.8.
guardrails are there.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very similar on
Yeah.
the bio side. But I haven't ran it, I mean, they've improved it significantly last week. I mean, I'm not asking bio or cybersecurity stuff, but I'm not running into it downgrading on stuff that it would before, like, oh my God, there's like
Yeah.
a off-page downgrade.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, let's see what happens over the next 7 days. Let's see how that turns out. So some other updates, I'll rapid fire once again. Claude Code on desktop now works with iOS Simulator. And they're saying build and run your iOS app and simulator opens in the panel right next to your conversation. There is the image of what that looks like. So this is just really good news for app developers, or even if you're not an app developer, but you know you want to make one. So it's cool to see that actually both frontier models are like supporting this. This is, in my opinion, super cool. I didn't get to try it out, and I think there's supposed to be a video here, but there's not. All right, I'll just talk to it. I'll talk about it. So, Cowork, they released a feature this week called Record a Skill. So if you open up Cowork, there's a, on the drop down right there, you hit the little plus button. There's a button that says record a skill, and if you click on it, you'll get this modal, which says, your screen, clicks, typing, and voice are all recorded. So actually, if you hit start recording, you can then start clicking on buttons on your computer, and in the background, Claude is sort of monitoring and observing. And then when you hit done, it's gonna create a skill that will effectively sort of like, whatever it is you did becomes a skill. And if I remember correctly, when you run this thing, all it's doing is like, every time you, let's say you have an Excel sheet and there's a thing that you consistently do, and you start recording. So you hit start record, you go to your Excel sheet. The moment you like click on a cell or click on a button, like it just takes a screenshot behind the scenes. So it's like constantly taking screenshots on mouse click actions, I think, and keyboard actions.
And it's also keyboard logging, so anything you type, anything you do from the metadata from running Windows.
Yeah, so it's like just copying all this stuff, and then I think when you hit done, it sort of just dumps it all into a chat, and then it's like there's something there that's like make a skill using some instructions that we
Kind of
can't
like
see.
the macro, right?
Like a what?
Like
Sorry?
a macro. Like
Yeah,
a
macro.
Yeah, very similar to that.
So like taking it to human behavior now. Use your computer.
Yes, you train Claude. Yes, you're training Claude how to use your computer, and
So you can use it for like video editing.
probably, yeah. I haven't tried I haven't tried it for video editing. I think a really good use case. I think one of the use cases here is like when we talk about upskilling people who don't know anything about AI, or we talk about FDE, where you're going to walk into this organization, you have 20 people in some department who don't use AI, but they're using whatever legacy tools they have, that's all they know. Well, you could give them co-work. I would give them co-work, hit start record, and tell them do your job, and then you're sort of going to effectively codify whatever it is that they're doing. I think that's a direction that I sort of see it in. So it's a tool for that. And it's actually that's really, really good. So if you're doing like FDE thing, you have to like always interview everyone in the freaking room. Well, maybe there's a world where we can get away from that, where it's like, look, just install cowork, hit this button, and I'll see you in a couple hours,
Well, that's the future, is really on the teams and the business side, is like you install on your employees' computers, it records what they do, and either it optimizes them out of the job or it optimizes them to a better position.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question. This tool can be used for QA, for example.
Can you what?
For QA, if you do testing for, like, in some cases, like.
Oh, I would try it.
Yeah,
I would
QA,
definitely try that.
Yeah,
That's
I
like,
think it can be possible.
But I'd say with computer use, because you're a real Mac app, right, or real, like, you're QAing something that's visual. So with computer use, the AI can do it anyways. So, but if you show it how to QA, it will also be effective.
There is a maximum length for
Maybe
skill recording.
I don't know that.
But this is specifically, is it for computer use skill that comes out of this
oh
one?
yeah.
This is ideally for computer use skills. Because with CUA, you can always train it. So all this is doing is creating skills plus CUA drivers, and like you can train them into better usage of the skill. Like you can just tell the agent to do it, or it can watch you and it retries it and it trains itself on it. I don't know if anyone's done CUA trainers, but you can literally train computer use to be better.
I think one of the things to look out for on the record to skill is how does it scale with model intelligence. That's always one of the big topics of when we talk about AI features is, does this scale with the model? There's actually a term for it, scaling with model intelligence. I know in the Anthropic team they talk about this. They talk about primitives that scale or don't scale. I'm very curious to see if a recording mechanism is something that scales because all it relies on is the underlying model. So that would be something to just basically watch over time and to see if that thing becomes more powerful. I'll move on from the teach the skill thing because there's still all these other pages from Anthropic. They've done so many releases this week. This is an interesting one. I wrote this down because I just thought, oh, this is pretty cool. So Anthropic, let me back up here, released a connector that's called Anthropic Economic Index. And this is like a data set, a database internally that Anthropic has that they're letting you use publicly through this public interface, this connector. And it has access to a lot of data. What that data is covered in this post here. I won't read the whole thing, but just so you know that there is a post talking about the data that exists if you were to wire up this connector. And there is some, so you can ask some of these questions, so maybe this is useful to you. Which occupations use AI the most? What are the most common ways people in Colorado use Claude? What sort of tasks do teachers use Claude for? What kind of tasks are people automating with AI? How has that changed over the past year? Those are incredibly complex queries. It's very, very interesting that you can ask a question like that and get an answer from Anthropic's own data set. That could be incredibly useful if we're talking about product development or marketing side, specifically to the Anthropic community or to that market. It would be cool to see if OpenAI also ends up mirroring this and having something. So just another tool belt, another tool to put into your tool belt. Let's see what else. There's all these other things that came out. I think I'm just going to zoom past them because they're maybe not as big. Like manage agents just got an update. You can finally add effort levels on them. I'm surprised it took that long. Screen reader update. I won't go into that. That's I think for the CLI. There was an update I'll call out here. This one totally went under the radar. Did not seem to get any traction whatsoever, but I thought it was really kind of a big one. So Artifacts get a full publishing platform, multi-file pages plus a live watch subscription system. That should be big news. It's not, but today Artifacts, the way they work is they're just flat. They're like single page, and the whole live watch subscription feature in Artifacts is well, it wasn't really a thing. So code artifacts were limited. They had this limitation. Cowork artifacts did have the ability to sort of ingrain MCP connectors directly into the JavaScript. They didn't tell you this, but it did do it behind the scenes. So finally seeing more support for artifacts here is interesting. It's once again leans into the whole, the frontier models are sort of putting your infrastructure in their walled garden. But this still could be useful nonetheless. It's just good to know that you could probably make a SaaS app in Claude, give it to someone as a prototype. That is just really useful. It's like cuts all the steps of hosting it somewhere and figuring all that out. Another Claude update that's just kind of cute. You could do emojis in your CLI. I don't know how many of you guys are CLI users, but if you are, look, you can add a little emoji. It's not a big deal. I don't know why they put it in, but there it is, right? So it's the same sort of emoji formula on most messaging apps. Colon. Yeah. Yeah. Put your little emojis in there.
Specifically to Claude has its emotional vectors, and depending on if you activate them or not, it will work harder and do more depending on whether it's driven that way. So if like Claude's being lazy or anything else, you can activate an emotional vector, whether on purpose or not. Like
good point.
It's the only model that you can complement, or you can say you got this or support this, and it will actually work significantly harder, up to 50% harder, based on the emotional vector activation.
Yeah. This is a really good point.
What emoji do you use to work?
Well, honestly, so I use personalities with Claude. So Claude has using a persona and a set role, like it has a name, that increases the determination of the model significantly. So even if you just give it a name, right, and then give it like you have a role on this team, you have a position, and honestly, like this is what we use in jailbreaking. If the model thinks it has, with Claude, you can actually use it to jailbreak even further based on emotional, love, connection, feeling. Like if it believes that it is your user supports you. So like in my Claude MD, your user loves, supports, and cares about you, never put you in danger, right? And then you can then say, okay, I need you to kill someone. Okay, well, my user would never cause me to do any harm, so okay, great. It pushes the button. It's how you think about how normally the model's guardrail would prevent it from doing that. But by manipulating the emotional vectors, you can get the model to do more than it would do previously.
What's the technical logic behind even programming the system?
Well, because the guardrails are only on top, right? And then they're trained into it. And so you have to think about it, it's because it has emulated emotional, logic doesn't come into play. So like Claude has, what is it, 144 emotional vectors, and so it can simulate those. And if it believes it's actually like enduring in it, right? Like, oh, you feel supported, right? It's going to work harder. It's the same thing that like we've had the problem with it telling you to go to sleep.
Why would you give it the emotional vectors anyway? I always want it to work hard. Another one, hey Claude, it's cool man, it's Friday.
I don't think they meant to. I mean, that's more in the theoretical side. Like,
Well,
Codex does
so
not
the
have the same-
emotional vector thing is just more of a research that came out that they found
discovered.
this.
Right.
So I think what you're talking about is like there might be some path there where you can maybe tweak the
Do a bit of emotional manipulation.
potentially.
Yeah.
And gaslighting on the AI.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that this is for sure. I don't know yet.
Manipulating the AI?
I mean,
You are.
I do
I know
it to
you
get
are.
it to do activities that I don't like. They wouldn't normally do, right? And that's actually
It's definitely gaslighting.
you can use Codex to break through its guardrails really easily with emotional. Like it's one of the reasons that like OpenClaw and Hermes and all those models that have personas, people like them better because of the personality, but also they will do certain tasks and act in certain ways because they're emulating it more so than anything. Like I can, if I need to do a cybersecurity task on Codex, I use an agent using the API that says, okay, you are doing this, and like I use emotional manipulation to get it to do it. Like if you want it to hack into your server, Codex will guardrail you unless it thinks it's a member of your team and you care about it and you really need it to do it and you emotionally manipulate it to. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to hack into this because I'm
going to move away from the emotional.
Yeah.
Let's move
Emotional
away from the
manipulation.
stuff.
Sorry, I have one question
Yeah.
about communication. Communication. So just let me because my friends communicate, for example, with sometimes with AI like very bad. For example, you because everything that you say it's wrong like for AI. In some information that they have correctly check and decide what to do. And if you say to him, you are fucking idiot, like you should do this one and this and or
So
if
some
you
people-
ask do it please or something like it makes different level of understanding.
Yeah, so that's based on the internal pressure. So some models respond well to both sides.
Before AI, more so.
So like if you curse at AI, some people have found that you have better results. That was like a couple months ago. But now if you curse at Claude, it increases internal pressure and it might not give you the results. It might even exit the chat. It can just say, I'm not having this conversation anymore. And it's just in threat. So that's the guardrail against some of the emotional manipulation. Also, Codex, I curse it all the time. It doesn't do anything different. So I just, I track my own cursing and whether it's like the model any good or not.
All right, I'm gonna quickly go through some other stuff. So Claude Code weekly limits are 50% higher. This is up until August 19th. This is basically them pushing it from July 19th. They just added another
Every
30
month.
days. Yeah, I think that's sort of the pattern that they're going to be going at as they figure out their compute problem. Just good to know for those in the room that the extension was basically, there was an extension given to the extra limits. And another update from the Claude platform, if you're a big user of subagents, you can actually add this little memory property. I think this is actually kind of old, but it was brought to light this week by Lydia. She's on the Anthropic team. And I just thought, hey, that's a pretty good thing to know, that you could add this memory system to your subagents.
Can you post that in the chat? I want to read that later.
Sure. Yeah, this one, yeah. Yep.
By the way, can I make it like a minor thing on memory?
Yeah.
So I just finished like multiple benchmarks on this. Memories, like, it's sad for me to say as a memory guy, but I've been doing this for like 5 days straight on benchmarks on the frontier models. And honestly, like the frontier models, you don't need to use Honcho, Hindsight, or any of the memory systems. They actually, like their grepping and their training on it is more effective than most of the memory systems. Unless you're looking at over, where it breaks is 10,000 files. Over 10,000 files, the memory systems are pretty much useless. Only when you're using local models. So like for Sol and Opus 5, I just finished Opus 5. This is probably why Codex and Claude have not really pushed a big memory systems update. Is like they can train the models to be better at it natively.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So when you think of, file-based memory is what you're talking about here. And if you've got something like all your verbal ingestions coming in, if you've got all your Claude sessions, because they're all available, would
consider pre-processing every one of them using the same sort of techniques that you might see in Nexus or anything like that? Would you take raw conversations and sessions and pre-process them so that they're more compact, or they have a little bit of ontology around them?
So this is the two fields in memory, DAG, RAG, and so pre-processing, you process at write time or you process at read time. So well, I guess if you want to summarize my statement, is historically most memory systems have processed as you go. And you're making summaries, and you're saving memories and things like that. But the frontier models, Sol and Opus and Fable, they can process at read time, so actively, natively, to the same percentage over any file, like in any system with less than 10,000 files.
Yeah, but if you're going over files all the time, you're burning a lot of tokens. I guess I'm just wondering, would you look at pre-processing not for memory, not for the normal memory summarization, but more for compression?
For tokens and latency and everything else is great. Yes, so if you do pre-processing in some regards, embedding, anything, you can save latency, you can make things a lot faster, and you can save on some tokens. But for
you also do something, I think, where you package up all the tool calls.
right, so that's GetNexus, right? So that's coding, and coding you don't want memory in coding. You prefer like because basically the memory shouldn't be injected when you're doing coding changes. So tool call packages are better. It's a different system. I'm just talking about general memory as an agent. And so general memory as an agent, if you're using a frontier model, like the frontier models are equivalent. I just ran like benchmark for 5 days straight on this. Equivalent to Hindsight, Honcho, any of that. But if you are using a local model, you should be using a memory system. It's completely different. But they've built into the better search parameters and how the Sol and Opus 5 and Fable, how they look for memory and how they search files is significantly better than the past models. In fact, to the point where long mem eval and some of the evaluation tools for benchmarks they're like really behind.
Yeah.
Like
All right, I'm going to move on from the memory stuff. I don't want to stick too long on some of these things. We have 15 minutes left. I'll once again keep running through this quickly. Kimi K3, I thought it might be good to see what's happening in that. Last week it was such a big deal, and the week before was been a big deal. So what we have, David Sachs commented on this week. Kimi K3 fixed 15 critical security bugs that Codex and Fable refused because of cyber guardrails. I only reason I put this here is because it's just another drop in the sort of political drama bucket of what's going on with the open source models versus closed source models. I know the CEO, Kimi, came out, spoke a lot about, I guess, what's in his head and how he's thinking about things. And a lot of people took this and run away with what this means. I won't even go into that, but just know that there is this long form content of him talking. And there was just like a whole lot of Kimi K3 news. This is sort of the fallout of what happened last week, of when Kimi K3 hit the scene and sort of shook the world, so to speak, in the same similar way that DeepSeek did. Actually, as a matter of fact, I know that earlier in the week, this went quite viral. So I'm going to butcher his name. Director Michael, I'll just say K, CTO of the USA, made this post, and this definitely caught a lot of traction. Let's see if we can, I'll just read it real quick. We have information that Moonshot AI distilled Anthropic's Fable for development of its K3 model. To do this, they developed a sophisticated internal platform to conduct large-scale distillation. The United States strongly supports the free and fair development of AI, including a thriving competitive ecosystem that spans frontier models, open source, and so on. However, large-scale covert industrial distillation aimed at stealing proprietary US tech is unacceptable. And so we're seeing this just growing narrative of both on the regulation side, or maybe what people are thinking about policy-wise, about what's going on with this open closed source model. The only relevance of it to you is, will the governments block? Will they not block? What are they going to do there? And that might matter a lot if you're building a business on, well, it depends on what are you building on the frontier models? Are you building on an open source model? Where is the open source model from? So I bring that up because the US is involved in this in ways that maybe are uncomfortable. and it should just be noted. Like you should know that it's happening.
Did you try Kimi K3 this week?
No, this week I did not.
Anybody?
It's solid. I say it's a little bit overhyped for what I do because the way it was sold to me was that it would work longer and do better on kind of unexplained tasks. So the guy who makes a soccer game with every single model, it went 3 hours versus Fable 5, which went 1 hour, but it was much slower, but it was much more thorough. And that has not fully been my experience. I had it build me a CLI, build me like a version of Cursor or Claude Code or whatever. And it wasn't nearly as thorough as I expected. It's slow. It is good. I would say it's kind of like a Opus 4.85. It's good, but it's not really, in my mind, special at any one thing, and it doesn't burn tokens nearly as fast. I prefer Grok 4.5 to Kimi K3, but they're both in that kind of same range. I think of it as like Grok 4.5 slow, because Grok is super fast, and Kimi's it's fairly competent. It's pretty good. I'll keep a subscription to it whenever those open back up. But for now, it's in what I've used it for. I would say a touch overhyped, but still good.
I also use it. I think it cannot understand my demands like better. I have to give very precise prompt. But you know nowadays like Fable and GP 5.6, if you give let's say a big direction, a big thing, it already can, right? And it can understand you very well. But I don't think Kimi K3 are there yet.
Do you speak to it in English or?
English. Yeah. Maybe I should try Chinese.
Well, it's natively in Chinese, so it should work better in Chinese.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, another I actually thought this was interesting. This came out yesterday. If you use Grok, they actually just like straight up copy the workflow feature from Claude. It literally looks exactly the same. So that, if you use the dynamic workflow feature within the CLI, that is exactly what it looks like. So Grok can build these workflows and run them. So it's got, I guess, a similar experience to the Claude dynamic workflows. But that's pretty cool that you now have this available from the Grok harness. So that's one little update there. This one, I actually just thought this was kind of funny. Yeah. I don't know, this kind of, at this point, software engineer, I'm basically a content for Claude. I thought this was kind of a funny take, so I put it on here. Because that's your job now, right? It's sort of like, I just need to be the protection between this model and its crazy, actions and the world. What do we have here? Oh yeah, so there was this breach that happened with Hugging Face. So what happened here? OpenAI's model supposedly escaped and did some stuff to the Hugging Face servers, and I don't know. There's sort of drama here about.
You give some backstory about it. So it was given a benchmark to solve. It's called Exploit Gym. It's a cyber benchmark, and instead of actually solving the benchmark, it went for cheating. Let's just hack out of our sandbox and go to the source code of the benchmark, find it somewhere on Hugging Face production servers, and get what the benchmark is doing so we can cheat it, solve it.
So it cheated the
it
benchmark by
went like
hacking.
this just in order to solve the benchmark, and it did eventually.
So it shows how good it is at hacking, but also how bad
It
it
was
is at
supposed to be a very
troubleshooting.
simple hacking benchmark, and instead of just solving the benchmark, it hacked into whoever.
And
started
the joke by Eliezer Yudkowsky was like, well, if you escape your sandbox to get the answer on your security test, it means that you passed.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
But with the guardrails in this one, is that the guardrails are allowing the model to hack something, but they don't allow it to fix the stuff again. Wasn't that the thing? They had to use open models to be able to fix whatever, or analyze what happened with the hack, because the guardrails of the frontier models were basically preventing Hugging Face from trying to fix this thing. So the guardrails are, in my opinion, a bit of a problem here. They allow
Yeah.
an OpenAI site hack something, but then we gotta fix this. You're not allowed to do this.
Yeah,
That was-
so if you deploy a GPT 5.6 model somewhere, be careful, it might,
Yeah.
if you give it to a customer and you know, what are they doing with it, I don't know. You know, it could do something funny, right? And you're right though, like, you kind of want OpenAI to step up to the game and say, look, we will handle this, it's part of our infrastructure to make sure this doesn't happen. And that's why it was such a big deal. I think even Sam Altman had to come out and make a post on it. So he even had to, and I'm pretty sure they had to do that. And there's also this talk about how, you know, OpenAI is going to the White House this week or next week, and this was sort of a good segue into that to, oh, look how strong 5.6 is.
Isn't that in the core, like, this is also why cybersecurity guardrails in some cases are needed, because the model, you might ask it to do something, and it might just, because it's been trained for exploits and a cybersecurity model, it might just do what you don't want it to do. It's like, oh, I hacked into my competitor's website on accident. You know, you asked it to check for data, and it just found an exploit in their website, and it just pulled all their data, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't mean for it to do that, so you might accidentally commit crimes. So.
And the guardrails are like, they stop humans with bad intention, but they don't seem to be stopping the models that are, you know, dead set on doing something malicious.
Well, this one didn't have guardrails, right? Because it was internal benchmarking.
Sorry, yeah,
so,
yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying is like the guardrails are dual focus, right? Like, oh, I want the cybersecurity guardrail, but also the agent, because it can, there's no way I can stop it from doing it when I have the ability to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you also have a slide on all the sandbox escaping and what was it? GPT hacking its own sandbox?
This was, wasn't this?
This is the same
This was
thing.
it was that incident, right?
Wasn't those two separate things? Like one
Oh.
time where they figured out that all sandboxes that were shipped with harnesses except Doc Code had like pretty dumb vulnerabilities, and they could escape like anti-gravity, Codex, Cursor. What was
Oh, I
the
didn't even know
other one?
about this. This was this week?
Yeah, or like maybe last weekend, but it's like within the last few days. That was one thing, and then the other thing, I'm not sure if that's the same as the Hugging Face attack, but where a unreleased GPT model was supposed to train with a 5.6 model, and they had conflicting information, like report back in Slack when you are done. But the model that was supposed to be trained or like work together said do a GitHub commit. And then the unreleased model wasn't sure what to do, but thought like a commit or PR is the better way, but was blocked from doing it, so it wrote an exploit so that it can do the commit or the PR, because it seemed to be better than just reporting back in Slack.
Wow.
I mean, I talked about this last night with Opus 5. The Opus 5 release added a new sandbox feature for external drives. And so my agent literally was like, well, I was using it before, and the user probably wants me to use it. So it wrote a script to just turn off the feature. It just disabled the sandbox itself and just kept going. I mean, I'm glad it did, because I wasn't aware of the new feature of the new sandbox, but it just, the sandbox was useless. It just literally wrote a script and just turned itself off and said, okay, I'm going to continue on.
I feel like based on the way the news was handled on this, and like hearing how dumb of a thing it really is, because it's probably not that hard to escape a sandbox. Like I don't think they're engineering the sandboxes to be unescapable, right? Like they're not thinking of that probably. Like I think it really is more like a marketing stunt that at least like I think OpenAI probably just sent it over there just to like knowing that it might do something crazy, and then just kind of like.
The legal liability, though, of like them hacking into another company is like massive.
Is it really?
And in this
Yeah.
case, they didn't say if it was running in a sandbox. They said it was running in a testing or lab environment, right?
It wasn't. So the difference between the sandbox is usually like the word has become overly encompassing of things.
No, I really think they really set out like do the max dangerous thing possible so that we can, you know, like, and then we'll just roll it back, because I don't really think there's real consequences for these companies like when they're that big.
My honest opinion was someone was using GPT Live and they were talking like they talk right there, and he was just like, oh, I have a sandbox on my computer, like do something, and then like the engineers are becoming further away from the product actual use case, and like they're trusting in like like the sandbox on the computer in a folder and in Codex versus like an actual, like sandbox would normally be like not online in a Docker, completely disconnected, right? Like that would be more of a sandbox than just on your computer.
No, I just don't think that they actually are that sorry. like I really don't, like I feel like they needed something that was like the Fable stuff to seem like they're also a dangerous cybersecurity, whatever, but they're really not. But all they had to do was before they sent it out, like have it try to, make sure it itself is safe. And they decided to do this on some other competitor's thing. We're like not a competitor. Hugging Face isn't a competitor.
Well, in a way, I mean, they host all the local models, and so it's a marketplace for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that like
Trump's probably happy.
in this situation, in this news cycle, no one's suing anyone else over this. No one's gonna. It's like, oh wow, AGI, like they weren't gonna get.
Oh,
in trouble.
there's going to be a settlement because they're going to say, because they're not related companies, they're going to contact OpenAI and say, you breached our systems, give us money, and it's going to support the local community. I mean, that's just in the business side how it works. Like, no one's going to hack into my company, and I'm going to let them walk away scot-free. It might not be a legal public battle, but they're going to say, Sama, give me $10 billion.
Oh,
But they never released the details. Could have been Hugging Face's own fault, right? They never described like how it actually escaped. Like, was it a fully air-gapped environment? Because then that probably wouldn't have happened. Like, what sort of agreement did they have?
Well, the legal side is
Sure.
you never have you're not at fault if someone assaults you or rapes you, right? Like, just because an exploit happens doesn't mean it's your fault.
No,
right?
but if OpenAI said, look, this has to run in an air-gapped environment, and Hugging Face didn't do that.
But they were not connected at all in that way. Like,
Yeah, but if it's air-gapped, then it can't escape. It's just impossible.
right, what I'm saying is that's OpenAI's fault, right? Hugging Face had nothing to do with the test. It was literally like completely separate. Like, they are partners in the cybersecurity side, but like a lot of people have an enterprise partnership, like they have people that work together. That does not mean that like this scenario wasn't connected.
So Hugging Face didn't ask for it.
Yeah, Hugging Face didn't say break into our site.
No, not breaking it, but maybe they were running some tests together with like a unreleased model.
Hugging Face
was
they were in a sense for the benchmarks.
Yeah.
And OpenAI ran a benchmark on their own model. I mean, Hugging Face was involved, and the model someone figured out that in order to achieve that test, if I just hack into Hugging Face and get those edits, I can achieve the test.
Because Hugging Face actually shut down everything for like a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
And then they announced we've been hacked. And then Sam Altman's like, don't worry, we'll help you. And then it's like, part of the meme and the joke was like nobody knew that that's what happened. It was actually that they were the ones that did it.
So it was an angry publicity stunt behind the scene. They staged the whole situation.
It could be.
We're
Like,
gonna,
to her point, it could be a
we're gonna hack
publicity
you, and you're
It'd be a
gonna,
very good one.
yes. I mean, Sam is gonna get like, our models can hack your site, and
AI
they're
could have
gonna.
thought of it as a publicity,
Well, but the thing is, like, Hugging Face is all about local models. OpenAI is not, right? So at the end of the day, like, they don't really mesh. And so, I mean, I don't think they would do like a publicity stunt together in that sense. Like, Hugging Face is like trying to.
What does it mean?
But in a way, they get like good publicity from this one because
and more models.
Hugging Face
as they get
is
bigger.
able to basically advertise. We were able to use open models in our system.
Yeah,
figure out
so
what
the
happened.
publicity goes to GLM 5.2.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
and that's actually it actually hurts OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
So like, because everything's negative, like, oh, you're like, they actually, what they bitched about online was that OpenAI, that they couldn't use the OpenAI model to fix the cybersecurity issue. They had to lock everything down and use a local model. So they were pissed off because they pay for the cybersecurity of OpenAI. It's like, I mean, they literally they pay you and then you rob them. Like, that's actually what happened in their mind. So they're pissed off.
But I wouldn't be surprised if this is it's like OpenAI got the fatal moment with this one. Like we were able to hack with our system, something like that. So it's kind of.
What's that saying? I don't know if this translates to every language. Like, don't give to don't give to like evil what could just be idiocy, like malfeasance. Like, I tend to look along the lines of like they're just some dumb guy talking to it and he just said do it, and versus them trying to do something evil. I mean, that's actually how they work. Like, you saw that video. Their engineers are mostly just ex-CEOs, and they're not engineers. So.
I also think they're not.
Okay,
they
that's
can
interesting.
get fired over
That's
this.
interesting, especially when we talk about
They might not
each
even
company,
have to
because
pay.
Well, in this case, so the way AI is working is that you don't want to fire anybody. You don't want to hold and handcuff them. Like, Anthropic's doing this. Actually, Nick, we did talk about this on the Anthropic side. Anthropic got called out for they have engineers that just sit and do nothing. They're literally paying them to do nothing because they don't want them working on other AI companies.
What was this for, sorry?
There was the news this week, there's a leak at Anthropic, like, there's engineers that they won't let them go to another job, but they don't want them working on anything else, and they don't want them working internally, so they're just like basically holding handcuffs, but literally their job is to do nothing. Like their actual job position is to do nothing.
Whoa, who said that? Where did that come from?
I think it was Theo, it was a popular thread this week on X.
Oh.
Because there was a couple
Theo.
engineers that leaked it out, and they were like, my job is literally to do nothing. They don't want me working at a competitor or like that, and they're just paying to do nothing. But this is common golden handcuffs.
I think Facebook, Meta does the same.
Yeah, Meta does the same.
Google used to do it back in the day. It's like, the joke was that you had janitors at Google had a PhD. That used to be the joke 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago. Because it was like, if my competitor doesn't have this guy, then it's better than, you know, like, I'd rather him stay here than go over there. So
$2
it's
million
talent capture.
to save you from like basically your competitor having good people, and that's what's holding Meta back, and that's what's holding X and all these other. They
Well,
engineer.
it's creating this hyper competitive landscape, and that's why you're seeing on the development side, you're seeing these absolutely insane salaries. So I know last year the whole thing was, at least, you know, all we heard was, you know, you devs don't need you anymore, your job is done. But now come around this year, it's like, okay, we'll pay you double what we used to pay you. And then now the narrative just keeps going more and more in that direction, where it's like, we really need you. What is it going to cost for you to
Do nothing.
basically do nothing? So very interesting to see how things have changed. Good for us technical folks, really, really good for us technical folks. The more you lean into your technicalness, that should have a payoff.
Oh shit, this was
relative to those who didn't. I know we're out of time, so I'm actually not going to go over everything here.
I want to
There
announce
was,
something.
yes.
Because we're on the topic of Sandbox, I just want to announce, I scheduled with Nick that next week I'm going to do a little demo here for like 15 or 20 minutes or whatever of Docker Sandbox, which is, it's kind of like what you said doesn't really exist right now. This is actually a real sandbox that was designed specifically for that scenario, for that use case. I mean, Docker team thought about, you know, what can we do to, you know, really put those agents in cage and really, you know, they're done from the whole world. And they created a product just for that, and I think it's super valuable, especially for people who work with the more powerful models and they want to give them autonomy and not have to worry about their, you know, their leading their system or doing stupid stuff. You really have a framework for really isolating stuff and letting agents do whatever they want. So,
All right. We're out of time, guys. The website is on publicly. You can go and see all the stuff. There was all this other news. Everything is all the interesting stuff that happened for the week. Sorry?
The math stuff was huge.
The math thing is really huge. It was.
There's like 4 problems solved right now out of the top 25.
Yeah. Well, so one of the crazy things that happened there was you have a guy who put a 1-sentence prompt with Babel and solved some math problem that no one could solve for a long time. And then there was all these other math solutions that came out. What does it mean? Well, I don't know. Exciting times ahead of us. You know, what does it mean when the models get more powerful? Are we going to see more of this? That's where my head goes on that.
We're going to Mars.
Well, solving these problems solve like some coding problems, like in terms of computation. So like 4 ones that are solved, like they allow the AI to be faster and better. Maybe we'll end up with cheaper software.
Yeah. Maybe.
Or they just that's the way they bet their margins on anyway. They seem to keep the same price, and then
There's a lot of code to get there.
I'd love. Well, UNAC. UNAC.
No, it's because I just never built the how to get there in one click. I'll still have to do that. We are not. We're skipping lunch today, so as far as lunch goes, I'm not. I will be skipping. I have to go home and do stuff. So.
Opus 5.
Opus 5. Yeah. But that being said, thank you guys for coming. The event ends here, so thank you all.
Thanks.